Hello, friends. Thanks for joining me for this short movement bite. This practice is going to target the glutes. You could use light dumbbells here. I've got one heavier one, 10 pounds, and then one lighter one, but you could do this with body weight only. Should still be fun. Let's begin with a little bit of hip rotation just to get things warmed up and prepared. You could do this in tabletop position, or you could come on down to your forearms. Try to pull your shoulder blades apart to provide a little extra stability. And then we're going to start with rotating the hip with our traditional hip car, controlled articular rotation. During this movement, we're trying to minimize compensations from the pelvis and the spine and just work the hip joint. Doesn't matter which direction you're going, it doesn't matter which leg you've started with, just get it rotating. And then go the other way. Trying to recruit a little bit of that internal resistance as if you're working against gravity more than normal. Last couple on this side. And then let's switch legs. Do 5 to 6 in each direction. And if you're moving a little slower than normal, then you don't have to do as many. Ramping up the effort to pretty moderate. Reverse. Last one. And then we'll come all the way down to our back side. Setting up your bridge position. First set, let's do it without weights, and we'll bring our arms over the head just to relax in a wide stance. Try to contain the ribs and flatten out your lumbar spine. The first one will come up nice and slow. Tuck your pelvis under and try to peel your back off the floor one piece at a time. Doesn't have to be an overly high bridge pose. You can keep it fairly relaxed and moderate. And just take 3 breaths. Balancing the work between the legs and the seat. A little bit of a hug through those inner thighs as if you're trying to squeeze a ball between your legs or a yoga block. You could actually do that if you wanted to. And then let's come down one piece at a time, tucking and rolling the spine segmentally. Bring your arms down beside you now. Second one, tuck and roll your way up. On this one, we're going to go all the way up and all the way down. You don't have to keep it as slow as we normally do, so we're just looking for a nice, easy pace. Not too fast, not too slow, but in your full range of motion. Think of driving from the glutes rather than the low back. Another set of 8. Last 4. On this last one, let's hold the hips up and do your best to try to smooth out all those little wrinkles or creases in the front of your pants as you hold your bridge. Try to relax the right side glutes a little bit, let the pelvis tip slightly to the right, and then switch. Alternating glute contractions for 10, 9, 8, 7, just 6, 5 more. Final 4, last 3, just 2, and 1. Slowly lower down. Take your legs for a little rock if they want to roll, rock and roll, little windshield wipers. And then we're gonna maybe, as an option, load up the pelvis with a dumbbell or a kettlebell or whatever you've got. You could do 2 light ones or 1 heavier one. Let's find that bridge again. Rising it up. Middle ground, not overly extended, but also we do have a bit of clearance between the bum and the floor. Let's try that full range of motion again, all the way down, and then back up. One more set of 8. Final 4. Last pair. Last one, we're holding it up. And now we're going to go with a shorter pulse. Think of it dropping your ribs down, the front ribs down and back. So you're lowering just a little bit with the hips and then pushing it back up. Squeezing and squeezing. Let's go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Try to relax your shoulders. Last 4, 3, 2. Hold it up. Alternate right squeeze, right and left for 10, 9, 8, 7, just 6. Last 5. Last 3, 2. Final 1 each side. And slowly roll it down. Weight comes off to the side. Let us roll onto our right side. We're going to stretch that bottom arm, the right arm, all the way down underneath us so that we can use that as a point of support for the head. And then you're going to push your hips back towards the back side of your mat. So your legs are in a little bit of a forward pike, just moderate, but we do want to try to keep the back pretty neutral. So it feels like that the back of your spine could lay up against the wall. Neutral back curves, but if you normally have quite significant lumbar curve when you're laying flat, that also might mean you have a little bit of space between your body and the floor here at your waistline. If that's the case in your body, I want you to try to keep that little gap rather than letting the side of the waist sink to the mat. So basically you're looking for just natural curves on both sides of the spine rather than lateral flexion in the spine. Okay, so you might have to tip that left hip slightly away from your rib cage. Now we're going to push super hardcore into that bottom leg. Keep your knees bent for now. And we're just going to work a little tiny clamshell. Keeping the feet together, but opening the thigh as much as it'll go as you press the bottom leg into the earth. Another set. Now we're going to keep that top leg bent and float everything away from that lower leg. You are still pushing down with your right leg. This left leg's just a little bit bent. We're going to keep this leg about the same height as the hip, slightly higher. We're not going to lift it up and down, but instead we're just going to make these micro rotations of the thigh bone, inward and outward. Maybe you keep your hand on your pelvis so that you're not tempted to move your pelvis, and instead you can just isolate that spiraling action of the thigh bone. Let's do 8, 7, 6, just 5, 4, 3, 2. Now you're going to hold that inward rotation so that your heel is pivoting up, and then you're going to find a little tiny extension pulse. Press down with the right, and then just a tiny little pulse with the left for 10 more. Now you're going to kick your leg just slightly back, not so far that your low back arches, but just enough that you can feel it. Now externally rotate your leg. Same thing, just a little tiny lift, lift, lift. Last 10. That's 3. Beautiful. Lay on your front side. We're going to keep moving this left leg, but everything else is going to be neutralized. So we want to get super low in the chest, maybe stack the hands one on top of the other so that you can rest your forehead there. Neutralize your neck. Tuck your pelvis slightly so it feels like your low back is getting longer. And then you're just going to bend your left knee, squeeze your heel to your seat, and then you're going to take a little tiny lift into that left hip and extension. Now your leg isn't going to move a whole lot. It's small. Just a little squeezing pulse of the tush for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Hold it up for 10. Try not to let it go into your back. It's all glutes. Last 5, 4, 3, 2. Take a little rest. Let the legs rock a little bit. And then make your way onto your left side, please. Get your spine arranged towards the back edge of your mat. Knees are out in front here, moderately bent. And then we're going to start with that clamshell opening. So as your feet stay together, just try to spin your right leg open. It's a combination of a little bit of external rotation and then just a little bit of abduction. But remember that bottom leg is pushing into the ground just for that little extra stability. Try to keep your pelvis in a neutral position so that your hips are stacked. And if you have that little gap normally in the lumbar spine, try to lift the left side of your waist off the ground so we don't get too extended here on the side body. Let's do 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now you're going to lift your leg just slightly above the height of your hip, and we're working on those little bitty rotations. It's not that big of a movement, honestly. If you sense yourself kind of rolling onto your back, try to adjust so that the pelvis stays fixed. Last 6, 5, 4, rotate for 2, 1. Keep that hip turned in, and your leg is just slightly forward, not too much, and then a little tiny lift and pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A little mild external rotation as you kick your leg slightly backwards, but just feel it in the bum. Trying to find that sweet little burn. Small raise for 10 more. Press that bottom leg down. Let's just do 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oof. Oh, come to your belly. You're going to neutralize your spine. Get your forehead in to a neutral position so your neck is happy. Keep everything else very still. Bend your right knee, squeeze your heel to your seat. Micro pulse now through just the right hip for 10, 9, 8, 7, just 5. Now can we hold that extension? But keep thinking of the effort of tucking under with your pelvis. That'll keep it out of your low back. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Press on back. Tabletop position. We have one more movement for the lateral hip. Let's come down onto our left forearm. Your right hand's going to stay on the mat, but you kind of find that just perfect placement for you. Watch that you're not leaning to the left. That's our tendency. I want you to try to keep your left hip stacked directly over your left knee because your left hip is going to want to drift to the left side of your mat. Float your right leg off to the side and then try to lift it just a little tiny bit for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Hold it up. Rotate open more. Kick your leg behind you more. And then let's bend the knee. point our toe and rotate the thigh in slightly, but try to keep your pelvis open more towards the side. Little tiny lift for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Now you're going to externally rotate your leg. You're going to try to pivot that inner heel forward and the outer knee back. Another little lift for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch sides. Come onto your right forearm. Place your left hand strategically. Try not to let the hips lean towards your right side. Take your left leg out to the side and pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, just 4. Bend your knee just for the opening. Peel your heel towards your seat. The pelvis is open to the side, but we're going to internally rotate the hip. Little baby lift, squeeze the tush. 10. Make sure the movement isn't coming from your spine or your ribs. It's just the seat squeezing. A little bit of hamstrings, 2, for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, pivot your leg so that you're externally rotating it. Kneecap tries to point up. The inner heel pivots forward. Lift for 10, 9, 8. Keep that right hip stacked over the right knee for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Great work. If you want a little stretch time here, take a couple of lunges, a pyramid pose, anything that you feel like would benefit you. It's also okay not to stretch it out. Even if you're feeling like a little tight right here, that's actually a good thing. That means you've worked the right muscles to build up that stability and endurance. So there's no need to stretch your way out of it, even though it kind of feels like we want to do that. I'll let you decide. Thanks so much for coming to class. Let me know what you thought of this.